All right. I'm going to go over some of these problems for the chocolate chip ratio worksheet. And you might be asking, why are we doing a uh, chocolate chip recipe in chemistry class? And the reason why is because just as in a recipe, we have different ingredients over here. When we look at a balanced chemical equation, there are coefficient numbers that tell you how much of one thing is reacting with another thing to produce some products, and they react in whole number ratios. And this recipe is reacting together in ratios. In other words, the quantities of each ingredient must be added accurately to get the result that you want, which is a good, in this case, chocolate chip cookie. So let's take a look at what we're doing here, and we have the ingredients here on the left hand side, and let's just say that the recipe ingredients would make 10 cookies. Well, that's great. You could just add in all these ingredients, mix them together, and you'd get 10 cookies. But if you need more than that, if you need 20 cookies, you could double the recipe, and instead of 10, you would get 20. If you didn't need that many cookies, if you didn't need 10 cookies, you could, as you see here, you could halve or cut the recipe in half. You could cut in half all of these ingredients over here on the left-hand side, and you'd get 5 cookies instead of 10. Or if you needed 30 cookies, in this third column here, you can see that you could triple it, and you would get, if you tripled all the ingredients, you'd get 30 cookies. And if you had a big group that you needed 100 cookies, you could multiply all the ingredients times 10, each one of these ingredients times 10, and you would get 100 cookies. So that's what we're going to do here. And again, we're just kind of preparing on how to do this, and we're going to apply it to chemistry with balanced chemical equations. So let's take a look. What are we doing here? You've got 2.25 cups of flour as the first ingredient. If you want to double the recipe, oops, sorry about that. Again. Hello. There we go. Let's bring that up here. All right. If you wanted to double the ingredients, you would take 2.25 times 2. Doubling it would give us 4.5. Okay, so we would get 4.5, and let's just put it right there. If we wanted to halve the recipe, if we wanted to cut it in half, we'd have the same. We're working with the flour, the 2.25 again, and we would multiply it by 0.5 because that's 1/2. 1 divided by 2 is 0.5, and we get 1.125. Let's just round it off to the nearest tenth and just put it as 1.1. Okay, if we wanted to triple it, if we wanted to triple the recipe, we would take the amount of flour, 2.25, and we would multiply it by 2.25 times 3 to triple it, and it gives us 6.75. Let's just round it off to 6.8. And if we wanted to get 10 times the amount of cookies, we would take the amount of flour, in this case 2.25, and we'd multiply it by 10, and that would give us 22 point, we'd need 22.5 cups of flour. It's a lot of flour. Okay, so that's how we're doing this this problem here. Let's do another example or two. If we were going to look at the baking soda, It takes 1 teaspoon of baking soda for this recipe. If we're going to double it, 1 times 2 is 2. If we were going to have it, 1 times 0.5 is 0.5. If we're going to triple it, 1 times 3 is 3. And if we were going to get 10 times the amount of cookies, we'd go 1 teaspoon times 10 is 10. Okay, so these are all pretty straightforward. How about if we are going to, let's go down, let's drop down, let's do one other one here. Let's say 0.75 cups of sugar. Okay, if we're going to double it, the amount of sugar, we would go 0.75 cups of sugar. Oops, let's go over here on the right hand side. 0.75, and we're going to double it times 2, gives us 1.5 cups of sugar. If we're going to cut it in half, we've got 0.75 cups, and we're going to cut it in half, so we're going to divide that by 2, or we could multiply it by 0.5, is 0.375. Let's just round it off to 0.4 cups. Okay, if we're going to triple the recipe, we would go 0.75, and we're going to multiply it by 3. Gives us 2.25. Let's round it off to 2.3. And if we're going to get 10 times the recipe, we would go 0.75, and we'll multiply it by 10. And that 0.75 times 10. And that would give us 7.5 cups. And that's how we do these types of problems. Hope that helps you out. And good luck on the assignment.